Hey, Kelsey.
Hey, Kazu.
What's up?
Not too much.
Yeah.
Excited to chat.
Oh, yeah. Always fun to see you and talk to you. So I guess I know what you do because I don't really work with you, I guess, that much. But what do you do? Like, what's your job?
So my unofficial title is a talent and casting coordinator. I coordinate for both the head of casting and talent at our studio, but also the head of post-production, which is kind of like a side to it that's less time consuming. But on the talent casting side, it's everything from casting contestants, because it's all unscripted. So casting the contestants for dating shows, trivia, game, competition stuff, but also casting the celebrity talent as a host, as a judge, as a sideline correspondent, as a narrator. So it's like everything from development, when it's like we're going to do a pilot, or as paper development, like what would this look like if we had a host? Who would it be? All the way to like we have this series greenlit for NBC and we need a host and 3 judges, go.
Right.
So it's like crazy brainstorming, thinking traditional and outside the box of like who would be the best fit for this. And then, working with like the network and producing partners and everybody to get them all on the same page and ultimately try and get a deal with, the best of the best to try and get them on a baking show or whatever it is. So it's really fun. It's just a lot of like people and finding interesting, quirky things about talent that you wouldn't otherwise know and trying to like match a person to a project and just bring it to life.
That's cool that you get like a development side, but also kind of current programming side.
It's the best being split between both and like getting literally an eye on every project. And my internship experience was development. So I wanted to be in a job where I could continue that curation kind of cell germ of an idea, but also getting to like have a hand in every show that's on air and seeing tangibly like, oh my God, we put XYZ on the show and here they are running
It's my jam or any of those.
That's my jam.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Saw you there.
Yep.
So you mentioned your internship. What was leading up to your job now? Like, how'd you get your job now?
So I studied comm and music industry at USC and wanted to be in the music business. And I was just like reading all these books on it. And I was like, I'm going to be at a record label. And that's pretty much what I did. And I was interning over at Sony Music and I was in their film and TV department. So like it was putting the music on the TV, but I was like, wait, I think I want to be on the TV side. So kind of like dabbled around and, did all the networking and figured out like, what are these jobs out there? And with COVID, I was working, I don't know if I told you this, I was working at CNBC.
I think you did.
So it was like business news. It was like stock market. I was like, whoa. Yeah, I'm not trying to be on Wall Street. And
you're a wolf.
Yeah, she's not a wolf. But I was like, this is like the right kind of area, but not exactly where I want to be. And then because it was like the onset of COVID and everybody wanted to do these Zoom informationals, like they were a little more excited about virtual networking. And so I talked to someone at Ian Bravo in development, and that's where they told me like, this is unscripted. This is how we don't read scripts, but we watch sizzles and that kind of stuff. So that just like, I felt like it clicked for me, and then interned there my whole senior year. And knew as soon as I was gearing up to graduate, like it's going to be unscripted. It's going to be, either in the development, casting, current capacity. And my job at the studio opened up and it was just like perfect. Everything lined up. So I got really lucky.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool. I feel like a lot of people like don't know, even maybe when they're 25 or 26, like don't know what they want to do. And you seem to have figured it out fairly quickly.
Yes.
But I feel like the internship was like really important, right? Because if you hadn't done an internship and just did college, like I feel like getting that experience made you know like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Right. Like actually seeing it in action. And I mean, it took, doing licensing, doing a PR internship, doing a news writing journalism internship to like finally get there, but none of those experiences along the way were insignificant to the bigger picture. Like I can actually trace back why working at Nickelodeon was really helpful to this, to that. So I don't know, it was I don't think any route is traditional by any means, but when you look back on your experience, it's like, oh, this is what I learned and this is how it got me one step closer.
Right.
So.
And like internships don't necessarily have to be like your dream job or like leading up to your dream job. It could be something that just let you know that you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Exactly. And what was your first entertainment gig?
This is my first entertainment gig. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you not know that? I thought I told you.
Well, I think it's interesting for like both of us to be in similar capacities, but of having such a different experience. Like mine is very like traditional, got the internships, but then it allowed me to hone in and like figure out my passion quickly. But it also shows that like you don't need a ton of entertainment experience in order to be qualified and successful in the entertainment business.
That's
like
true,
your marketing internship has gotten you everything that you needed to succeed. And then the third thing is like so much of the business is just being personable and being flexible and adaptable and having your shit together so that you can like be calm under pressure. So
yeah, and I feel like I don't think I've heard this direct, or I might have. 80% of it is if they want to work with you or not.
Yeah.
Especially in the entertainment industry. Like if you're like trying to be a doctor, it's totally different, or a lawyer.
Yeah.
But like I feel like in the entertainment industry, if they want to work with you, you'll learn all the skills that you need. Especially, I feel like unscripted too, specifically.
Oh my gosh, it's such a vibe thing of like for us too, being assistants or coordinators, like when you're just working directly with your boss, you have to have a good vibe in order to be compatible. To your point, they kind of teach you everything you need to know on the job.
And unscripted is like not necessarily no skill, but it's like it's not as tangible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you feel that? Where like scripted, it's like the writer and then the director and the producer. Maybe producing is a little more like that, like unscripted. Do you feel that way about unscripted, where you're like, oh, so many people are really social? Like we're both pretty extroverted.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of personality, and it's a lot because it's not so rigid. And I think creatives are allowed to be a little more flexible because it's not like a pre-written formulaic script. It's like, this is just a concept. How can we bring it to life? A social experiment, a game, an ensemble that we want to just follow around with a camera. So I think like one, it gives you more creative adaptability, but it also just means like we're all just here trying to figure it out on the fly most of the time. So
yeah, and it's like our bosses just know like what might work. Like because of experience and like
exactly.
I feel like that's so the case for me, at least. Like we're always just kind of predicting what might happen. Like, I mean, I think your job is so interesting because it's like you're on the studio side. You're like not on a network, but you're also not at a production company or like in a real like a actual production. So it's so interesting because you're so in the middle of things.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
Because like sometimes I wish I was a little more in it. Like I'm on set, but I'm not like running around doing things. It's more just as a position to be available if needed. But it's also nice because you get to have your eye on so many projects, and some of them are being developed. Some of them we're shooting a pilot next week. Some of them that's my jam, 3 weeks in a row every day. So just having that like breadth and every day being different is, I do appreciate that on the studio side.
Do you feel like your schedule work-life wise? Because I know when I'm like a lot more busy than not, because like, oh, we'll be filming these months and then these months. Like, do you feel like it's unpredictable, or do you feel like you have a pretty good balance?
Yeah, not too stressed.
Really?
I feel like I have a good work-life balance, and it's, to your point, it's predictable because we're going to be shooting this on this week or this day or whatever, and it's going to be a long day, but after that it's done. So I think I know what's coming, and like we had a busy season. I think when I saw you, it was like, that's my jam, week is slaying, baking it, like all back to back to back to back, which was crazy. But then after that, it's like, okay, now everything's in the edit phase. We can just focus more on like getting the product out. So in that sense, it's manageable, but also on my day-to-day, like I have a great team. I have a lot of flexibility. I don't feel overworked. There are some days where it's like we're gonna have to start early or end late because of whatever deliverables, but for the most part I feel like I can get the work done in the allotted time, and also have not a 5 to 9 before the 9 to 5, but definitely an 8 to 9 and then a 6 to 10 and live my life and be social and not be like losing sleep.
Okay. I asked that question because like you're not in a network and you're not in a production. So it seems like you have so much, like you have a development, maybe a current thing, like you said, like you listed like 3 different shows. Like, so I thought maybe like you don't know when you'd get busy, but it seems like since you're a little bit more on the corporate side of things, you actually are protected under that like a little bit. Like you get benefits, right? And like you get like perks like that I don't get.
It's nice having the corporate umbrella safety blanket situation.
I was like fucking not mad, but you guys went to like the Nintendo World, right?
Yes.
I saw you guys all went and I was like, that obviously go, but like I literally have an office on the lot and like I can't go. Like
it is pretty tricky, and I feel like there are so many contractors or whatever project-based employees that don't get the same perks, and for me it's like those experiences being an NBCU employee that like make me proud to be an NBCU employee. So it's definitely a bummer that not everybody gets that when like you're here and you're doing projects with us and whatnot.
Wait, so do you get to go to this park like whenever you want? Is that the thing?
I wish.
Oh, so is it just like a discount?
It's once a year. You get a free family ticket. So it's you and 3 guests.
Once a year.
But once a year.
Wait, what?
I know. After that, everything's discounted.
Are you comfortable? You can like lean back. You don't have to like be in the...
I know. I did a little leg cross situation.
Okay. What's going on?
It's because my legs are so short. I feel like...
Is this couch big?
Look at this. If I come all the way back, I can't touch the ground.
Is that... Oh my God. Wait, is that normal? Like, not normal?
I mean, I'm 5'1". So,
are you 5'1"?
Yeah, so my legs are... That's why I have to be over here to like anchor myself.
Yeah, I thought you were like trying to get like keep good posture or something.
No, I saw how lean back you were and I was like, damn.
You saw my legs and they're like extra. Like I was literally like about to touch your toes. Like,
exactly.
That like with any couch though?
It's most couches. Most couches, really? Most chairs.
Chairs. I didn't even think about chairs.
Yeah, there are some chairs where I'm like dangling my feet. Part 2 of the interview is going to be so chill.
Oh yeah. I mentioned pushing the envelope, right? Like, is there something that you push the envelope for in your job or in the industry?
A little bit broad, but I think like Gen Z representation in talent conversations is really important. And I think it's like something that not a lot of teams have and not a lot of teams utilize. So, I mean, on my day-to-day, it's like, my team is my boss and myself, and my boss can speak to her generation and I can speak to my generation. But I think like more than ever with entertainment landscape changing, it's important to have like voices of our age and our generation that can speak to like, this is who's popping on TikTok. This is who's really making waves on this podcast or whatever it may be. And I think like having more conversations about, you know, diversity, gender, all that kind of stuff, and being in tune to that is really important when like we're providing a platform for people and we're trying to make content that represents a lot of people. So it can be tricky when you're like working for a traditional broadcast network because they're, you know, bound to their own like traditions and their brand, their demos.
Audience.
Exactly. Those are conversations that, you know, I certainly am not an expert in advocacy for those kind of things, but it's like if there's an opportunity for me to talk about what's important to myself and my generation, then I will totally try and be in that room.
So you mean like by Gen Z voices, you mean like Gen Z voices that are making the decisions, you're saying?
More just to have a Gen Z POV when we talk about like who should be in front of the camera. Because I mean, as far as my job goes, the best thing I can do in my position and at the studio is like be an open-minded like voice of you know, not like big change, but like I want the studio and I want the content we make to be like in tune with the world right now. So for a show like That's My Jam, when we're booking 40 guests, it's like, let's think outside the box. Like, can we incorporate drag queens? How can we just think non-traditional about this? I would probably say that's where my head is at right now. But obviously the longer I'm in talent and the more relationships I'm able to make, the easier it is to like really champion people who might not be your traditional face.
Do you think like in the industry as a whole, the industry is doing better with that, like what you're pushing? Or do you think that it's like just kind of depends on where you are?
I think it depends. There's just so many variables.
Yeah.
And I think like money is always a huge part of it. It's like,
Right. That's tough.
yeah, it's really, really tricky. And it just, it comes and goes with like where media is, where spending is, where the trends are, like in unscripted. Sometimes it might be like game shows and people feel very traditional about who they want on their game shows. But when you have a little more flexibility in order to be a little more adventurous and take more risks.
I didn't really think about like the budget aspect of it, so that's cool.
But I will say, and not to just plug our own company initiatives, but we have this program that's called the Creator Accelerator Program. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like a company-wide initiative. And it's basically, I think it's 11 digital creators that are basically on like a development deal with NBCU for a year to work on a project. They're paired up with a development executive and they pitch it to be greenlit on Peacock. But it's set up so that best case scenario, everybody has the allocated fund to like pursue their project. So it's not like they're competing against each other. If there's 10 great ideas, then 10 ideas get greenlit. So I think something like that, while it's a little more experimental and not a lot of places have put that much trust in like TikTokers basically to make our shows. But I think there's so many passion projects and there's so much white space that I think those kind of creators want to fill. So that kind of, I'm so curious to see how it goes. But I think
so it just kind of started that?
It kicked off in October. So I think it's a whole,
that's so recent.
Yeah, it's the first of their class pilot program, but I think if it is successful, I think that's really going to like...
Yeah, because I asked that because like I feel like that's hard to do for like broadcast TV. Yes. Because it's like I've seen it time and time again where like they try to make a show for like TikTok users or like Gen Z and like no one cares. And like no, like even if they got like big TikTok talent attached and they're like hosting it or whatever, like none of their followers like actually watch.
It doesn't translate exactly.
But that, I feel like if it's for Peacock or any streamer, it would be at least a little closer to working. Yes. So that's cool that they're doing that.
So we'll see if it pays off. But it's like initiatives like that like my boss and I got to help recruit all the people for. It was like, wow, it's so cool seeing these like fresh faces that are bringing something totally different.
So that kind of ties down to like what you're pushing the envelope for is like Gen Z voices and like Gen Z decision making. And because I feel like those people, some might not be like woke, but like they're younger, and I feel like you tend to be more woke just by living younger or being younger. So I feel like that's really important because those people have more decision power even if they don't have as much experience, since they have that power to like influence people.
Yeah. And even on like a day-to-day level, just being the person that can be like, hey, this person's like slightly problematic right now, or like we're not really, like in terms of celebrities, or like we're actually like we don't stan whoever, is always a useful voice in the room.
If someone were to like want to do your exact job, like what would be something that's really helpful to do before you do the job?
Definitely keeping up with pop culture. Like I was in tune to it, one, because I liked following, back in the day, like on Snapchat, I would see what the news stories are. Like when I was living abroad, like the Daily Mail was like all the big taboo gossip trade, so I would like keep up with that. So I feel like that was always an interest. And then when I was interning, like one of my jobs was to circulate like talent announcements of the day, like Hailey Bieber did this, or so-and-so's birthday, The Weeknd just dropped an album. So just like being very clued in on what's happening in pop culture allowed me to be very like equipped for this job. So I think that's something, if people want to be in talent, like they've got to know talent really well, but also they have to be able to like commit to going down a rabbit hole of research. Like we do such niche stuff sometimes. It's like, I want to say one was art critics with personality, and art critics are very the Renaissance, blah, blah, blah. So I think if you can like really dig into the depths of YouTube and find like clips that actually say, hey, we should take a chance on this person and this is why, then you're gonna have a good shot at it. I'm on YouTube a lot.
Really?
Which is like
I want to see your like YouTube algorithm. You got to show me after.
My whole search history is like name funny, name quirky, like any moment where it's like name tells a joke, like just all these. I need to find little snippets of people's best moments.
Do you think that like changes like your recommended videos?
100%. Yeah, I get a lot of like celebrity podcast videos coming up,
just like this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then it's like, Hailey Bieber eats a pepperoni pizza at this restaurant. Like that kind of stuff comes up. And I'm like, no, that's not relevant to me. But they think I've gone like into weird levels of stalking these people. Yeah. That's probably what my algorithm is based on. And it's like, I mean, so much of what I have to do is pitching ideas. Yeah. It's pitching names and saying like, why should we care? That voice in the room is not only, I think, Keke Palmer is incredible, but it's, I think she's incredible. Here's why we should work with her. Here's what she's up to lately. And here's an entire reel that I just edited of some of her funniest moments. And then that's when you can really like convince people that might not be familiar that we should be in business with someone.
I feel like being in talent and like TikTok all the time and like thinking about like followers, you know, some stuff are very like surface level stuff, right? Like, I mean, you get into the personality and like how they talk, so that's really important. But I don't think you are, but do you feel like people who do talent could become like too obsessed with like more surface level things? Like you find that that's like not something that you like about working?
Yes and
no.
What
I mean, though?
I mean, data is always going to inform decisions. So I'm always pulling stats on all these people because it's like if they don't have the following, then how can we trust that like people are going to feel excited about seeing them on NBC or Peacock or whatever. So that is part of it. I don't think it becomes all consuming, but I do think you just have to fight harder for people that are more up and coming, and you have to show like you really believe in them and you're on the pulse of them becoming something really big. So there's a little bit more of a gamble when they're less established. But when the gamble pays off, you know, you get them with 500,000 followers and pretty cheap, and then, you know, they become something amazing, and you're like, we're the ones that helped like cultivate that for them.
I only say that because doing development too, like I'll go through like show ideas and like try to attach talent like you do in your job. And I felt like when I do that, I feel so shallow sometimes because I'm like, oh, they're not big enough, or like they're too big, or like, good to hear that it's not just like followers or like, you know,
it's
like
so much
popular.
more than that.
Cool. Well, that's really cool. I love your job, but that's exciting. You're like always finding the up and coming talent or attaching someone really cool like Liza Koshy.
Exactly.
Cool.